I thought revenge would heal me, but after walking across Rwanda, I learned what truly haunts a survivor.
My name is Munyurangabo, but people just call me Ngabo. That's the only part of my life that feels simple anymore. My name. Everything else is broken. When I was a kid, my parents were taken from me during the genocide. I don't need to explain how or why. It doesn't matter. What matters is they're gone. And I've been carrying that emptiness like a shadow ever since. It doesn't go away. It follows me everywhere I go. Kigali, the city where I lived, was full of noise, crowded markets, laughter that didn't sound real to me. Every corner, every voice reminded me of what I lost. I couldn't stay there. I couldn't keep breathing the same air as people who carried on like nothing had happened. So I left. The only person who came with me was my friend, Sangwa. He's Hutu, I'm Tutsi. The world tells us that should make us enemies. But before all that, we were just boys. We laughed, played, stole mangoes from the same trees. He was more than a friend. He was my brother. We didn't have a map, just a direction. Away from the city, away from the memories. He said he wanted to see his family again after years of being gone. And me? I wanted something else. I wanted justice. Or maybe I just wanted revenge. I carried only a few things, but the most important was my machete. It wasn't just a blade. It was memory. It was the one thing that made me feel like I wasn't powerless. It reminded me of what was taken from me, and it made me believe I could take something back. I didn't know where this road would end. I only knew the past was still with me, like a weight on my shoulders. And until I faced it, I would never find peace. The road out of Kigali seemed endless. Dust rose with every step we took, and the sun felt like it was pressing down on our backs, trying to burn the past into our skin. But me and Sangwa kept walking. We didn't talk much at first. There was nothing to say. Just silence, broken by the sound of our footsteps on dirt roads. After a while, Sangwa started to open up. He talked about home, his mother's cooking, the way the fields looked in the evening, the smell of smoke from his father's fire. I could see his eyes light up when he spoke. He was remembering a life that was waiting for him, a life he could return to. But for me, every word felt like a knife. He had something to go back to. Me? My home was gone. My parents were gone. The only thing I had left was the machete at my side, swinging with every step. It wasn't a tool. It wasn't even really a weapon. It was a piece of the grief I carried. The steel was cold, but it burned in my hand like it had absorbed everything I lost. We walked through villages where strangers looked at us with curiosity, sometimes suspicion. I kept my head down, holding on to the silence like it was a shield. And then finally, we reached it, his home. The moment his family saw him, they ran to him with tears in their eyes, their arms wide open. His mother's cries were full of joy. His father's embrace was strong, like he had been waiting all those years just for this moment. For Sangwa, it was like nothing had changed. For me, everything had changed. I stood at the edge of their happiness, and I felt their eyes shift to me. Their warmth faded into something else, maybe even fear. I wasn't his son. I wasn't his brother. I wasn't welcome. And right then, I realized Sangwa was home. I was only a guest. And maybe not even that. At first, I tried to tell myself it was all in my head, that the looks from Sangwa's family didn't mean anything, that maybe I was imagining the distance between us. But it grew clearer every hour I stayed. His mother smiled when she saw him. But when her eyes flicked towards me, the smile faltered. His father shook my hand, but there was no warmth in his grip, just a cold, polite strength that pushed me away without words. Even his younger siblings, curious and playful around their brother, went quiet when I walked into the room. I tried to blend in. I helped carry water from the well. I sat quietly at meals. I listened more than I spoke. But nothing I did mattered. To them, I wasn't Ngabo the friend. I was a reminder, a shadow of a war they wanted to forget, a Tutsi boy in a Hutu household. Meanwhile, I watched Sangwa slip back into the rhythm of family life, as if he'd never left. His mother's cooking filled his plate. His father told stories that made him laugh. His siblings clung to him like he had been gone for a lifetime and finally returned home. And me? I sat at the edge of the table, a ghost among the living. At night, I couldn't sleep. I lay on the floor, staring into the dark, gripping the machete I had carried all this way. Not because I wanted to use it, but because it was the only thing that made me feel real. It was the weight in my hand that reminded me I wasn't just invisible. Still, the silence in that house was louder than anything I'd ever heard, and with every passing day, I felt more like an intruder. I had walked all this way with my friend, but here, in his home, I realized something terrifying. Maybe I hadn't walked with him at all. Maybe I had just been following behind, already alone. Days blurred into nights, and the air in that house grew heavier every time I breathed it in. I could see it in their faces. Sangwa's family didn't want me there. They didn't have to say it out loud. It was in the way his father's eyes hardened when he looked at me, in the way his mother set my plate down a little further than everyone else's, in the way his siblings whispered and went quiet when I entered the room. I thought Sangwa would see it too. I thought he'd stand by me like he always had. But instead, he sunk deeper into his old life, into the warmth of a family that welcomed him back like a missing piece of themselves. The more he belonged, the less space there was for me. One evening, his father's words cut through the air like a blade. He said I didn't belong there, not in his home, not in his family. His voice was calm, but every syllable was heavy, soaked in years of old wounds and unspoken hate. And Sangwa? He didn't defend me. He just sat there, staring at the floor. My best friend, the boy I had walked across Rwanda with, silent. That silence was worse than his father's words. I wanted to scream. I wanted to remind him of the miles we'd walked, of the weight I had carried, of the blood that had been spilled to leave me standing here. But instead, I just sat in the shadows, holding my machete close, feeling the edge of it against my palm. Not as a weapon, no, as proof that I hadn't vanished completely. That night, the house was full of laughter. Sangwa's laughter. His family's joy wrapped around him like a blanket, while I lay on the floor, in the corner, clutching steel and memories. The machete was the only thing in that house that recognized me. And in that silence, I realized maybe I hadn't just lost my parents in the genocide. Maybe I had lost my friend too. I couldn't take it anymore. The weight of silence, of being treated like a shadow in a house that was never mine. It all pressed down until I thought I would break. So I left. The road stretched out before me, empty and endless. But it was still better than sitting in that home where every glance reminded me I was unwanted. I walked with the machete in my hand, its edge catching the light. To me, it wasn't just a blade. It was memory, grief, anger, and maybe justice. But justice is complicated. Along the way, I came face to face with the man who had killed my father, the one that I had carried this machete for, the one whose shadow had followed me across every step of this journey. I wanted to raise it. I wanted to feel the weight of revenge in my hands. For a moment, the world seemed to go silent, waiting for me to decide. But when I looked into his eyes, I didn't see a monster. I saw a man.
Broken, worn down, carrying his own ghosts. Killing him wouldn't bring my father back. It wouldn't erase the silence in Sangwa's house. It wouldn't give me a place to belong. So I lowered the machete. I kept walking, alone this time. No family waiting at the end of the road, no friend at my side. Just me and the ghosts of the past and the uncertain path ahead. But for the first time, the machete felt lighter. Not because my grief was gone, it never will be, but because I realized the road forward wasn't about revenge. It was about surviving, about remembering, about carrying the story of what was lost. and maybe finding a way to keep living with it.